everyone that works for Menspire has a fantastic brand name above the door.
Whatever it is that you enjoy doing, that is your passion, that is your gift, then love it, you know, and name it.
I'm very, very blessed that this movement that we've got is based around family, and we all see that end goal as the same.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah.
What's your name? What do you do?
So my name is Glenn McGoldrick, and basically I'm the creative director of Menspire Ireland. So basically, about 5-6 years ago I moved over to the UK to work for Menspire. And at the time, obviously, Menspire was starting to sort of build its reputation across the UK and Ireland and stuff like that. So I wanted to go there and basically just, learn how to become, a stylist, in the 21st century, and move away from the sort of, traditional trade of the industry. And that was it, man. And sort of while I was there, built a very strong relationship with Samuel Palmer and Josh LaMonica, who are the founders of the brand. And luckily, while I was there, got offered a partnership to come back and take Menspire back to Ireland.
So what is it that you love about cutting style and today? What was the passion for it?
That's a great question, man. To be honest, this goes way back to even when I was in school, because I wasn't necessarily academic. I didn't really do well in subjects like maths and it just wasn't my thing. And not that I was a bad student, but it just didn't appeal to me, and I knew that wasn't my strong point necessarily. I knew I was more practical, was always better with my hands, better creatively and stuff like that. So when I left school, I actually really badly, I actually made a pretty big mistake, and basically didn't get any of my college courses that were on the CAO form, which is obviously what we use in Ireland for getting into college. And basically all of the courses I put on that were far too high for the points I'd gotten. So I was left in the shit, really, yeah. So then I needed something, I had to start looking elsewhere. And at that point I'd already started to sort of take a keen interest in barbering, because on social media like Instagram, I was starting to follow barbers from outside of Ireland, just to actually be able to get a better haircut myself. Not even potentially to get into hair, but just to bring a photo to my barber and say, is there any chance I can get this? Then it started to occur to me that the industry was actually starting to evolve. So I knew that for me it would sort of fulfill that creative, practical side that I had initially. Like for me, I could never sit behind a computer. Like it just really genuinely just bored me, if I'm being completely honest. For other people, it's great and it suits them, but for me, I needed to be doing something where I was busy and occupied all day, and that fulfilled that. And then, from the other perspective, outside of creative cutting, barbering in itself is a very good business for people that have that entrepreneurial sort of ambition, because not only are you cutting hair all day, but people overlook you know, the client building aspect of that, you know, which is huge, you know, being able to build a large clientele, retain a large clientele, that in itself is like running a small business, you know, if you look at it that way. So for me, it's always been about fulfilling the sort of creative aspect, but at the same time, you know, getting some sort of entrepreneurial buzz from it as well has been huge for me, man.
Talk a little bit where we're sitting there.
So we're actually in the brand new Menspire Academy in Ireland, in Phibsborough in Dublin. And, you know, again, even outside of that original question about what I enjoy about cutting hair, one of the big things that occurred to me early on was teaching. You know, it wasn't something that I won't lie and say that it was something that I thought I would enjoy. I never seen myself as a teacher or an educator prior to getting into barbering. It was something that I stumbled into because when I came to Menspire, education was huge. It was, you know, at the forefront of the brand. It was something that, you know, Menspire's culture revolves around development of staff, you know, on courses. It's huge. It's a big part of the company, and I sort of fell into that and I started to find a real love in, you know, just mentoring people. Like, you know, it's a hard feeling to describe when you take somebody, you know, from a position where they can't cut hair to a position where they are now a fully fledged stylist. Like, you know, that for me, for some reason, it just really started to become appealing to me. So, you know, from you know, two of my biggest goals early on when I went to Menspire was to bring a salon and bring the company to Ireland, and also open my own academy. And you know, luckily, we've just managed to do that. So.
How important is it to look into the process and how much of an effect using that product on the style of the process?
Man, this is crucial, and look, this is one of the big things that clients unfortunately don't understand. There's still a large, you know, percentage of clients and lads that buy their product, you know, when they go shopping to do their weekly shopping for food. You know, they'll pick up a random product off the shelf and just buy it with no real understanding of whether or not that product is going to benefit their hair, benefit the style that their hair is being worn in, and whether or not the product is even healthy or good for their hair. I think, you know, a big thing is that there's actually a lack of understanding of products from the average buyer. Yeah? You know, obviously there is a lot of people out there who are really, you know, attentive with their hair, and you know, they will look for that information. But there's still a large percentage of people, man, that just majority that don't understand it. You know, the educational aspect just isn't there. So. You know, in companies like ourselves, like Blue Man, who are really pushing education on products, it's essential. Like, you know, it makes a client's life easier at the end of the day.
What's one piece of advice you'd give to someone who wants to get into the barbering industry?
That's a good question. I'd say, from my own personal experience, yeah, would be to do things right from the get-go. Yeah? Look, when you look at barbering as an industry, yeah, you need to look at it as if any other industry or job. Right? There's very few jobs or industries that you can get into nowadays without paying for a college education. Yeah? Which, you know, in Ireland, somewhere between 4,000 and 5,000 a year, if I'm right. I don't know whether it's a little bit more, a little bit less. So, you know, you can imagine by the end of a 3 to 4 year course, you know, you're probably looking to invest between 10,000 and 15,000 euros in your education. That's for most, you know, careers. So for some reason in barbering, we still think that for 1,500 or 2,000 euros, we can become a fully fledged qualified stylist, which just isn't possible, to be quite frank, in these days. My mum always said to me, you buy cheap, you buy twice. And I stand by that to this day. If you buy something for a knockoff price, you're gonna have to buy it again. And the simple fact of the matter is that the way the industry has become in 2020, you need to look at it like any other career or job. It's something that you're gonna do for the rest of your life. So invest in it correctly from step one. Don't try and beat around the bush. Find a professional education company that will give you the correct start to your career on a full-time basis, this isn't something that you can do part-time.
So today I'm not cutting any hair today. Obviously myself, I've got a massive list of people who are requesting haircuts, but instead of cutting hair today on the first day back, I decided I took it upon myself to go to all the local UK salons. So we're starting in St Albans, we're going to go to Harpenden, we're going to go to Radlett, and then we'll finish in King's Cross. And I basically just want to make sure that all our PPE, everything that we've set up is all in place and everyone's abiding by it, everyone's comfortable. I want to see the smiles of the customers and the clients that haven't seen us for so long, which I've been doing all morning and having conversations with people I haven't seen for so long that I'm used to seeing weekly or monthly. And I just want to reconnect basically. We'll reconnect with the salons, reconnect with my staff, reconnect with the customers, and then next week I'm going to reconnect with my own customers and basically catch up myself and start cutting lots of hair next week.
Feels great. It feels great. It's been a long 3 months, but it's great to finally be back to see our clients.
Hello guys, Gianni Cardinali here. It's great to be back. I'm loving it, man. I'm so glad to be back. Just the energy, the positivity. You've got to remember, everybody's getting a haircut now. They've been stripped away from all of their kind of freedom and the things that they love, and we're now giving some of that back to them. So it's a very special feeling. Amazing.
Back in the game, baby. What more can I say?
I think in times like these, the thing that sets Menspire apart is all the things that we've had from day one. Small things like our cleanliness has always been, a priority of ours, and we always want the brand to appear fresh, clean. Little things like our appointment schedules and just monitoring general things that we have in the salon. It's almost like a lot of new barbershops and hairdressers that have to implement these new things. We kind of feel like we're kind of covered in most of these areas anyway. We feel like that our standards have been so high with cleanliness and organisation of clients and data and all this kind of stuff. Only the visors are really, the slight change.
Like I've got a massive clientele that have supported me through so much over the years, and I feel like if these people are continuing to support me and therefore Menspire after the weirdest times we've just had, then what is getting up early or staying up to cut their hair and making them feel amazing? And it is as sincere as that. Like, there's not really any financial benefit in cutting hair through the middle of the night or cutting hair tomorrow. Do you know what I mean? There's no difference. But for me, like, it was a bit exciting. I knew how it would make clients very, very happy instantly. And like, the proof's been in the pudding, man. Like, I've cut everything tonight from kind of people I've cut for years in my garage from 10 years ago to like old boys from Radlett that have come in at 3:30 a.m. just because they want a haircut.
I had someone approach me that I used to cut his hair many years ago, saying that he had a coffee shop in King's Cross and he had a downstairs basement available for rent if I'd be interested. At the time I thought, no, it's not something that I'm particularly interested in. I wanted a shop front, but I came down, checked it out. I loved how he'd kitted out the coffee shop and he had meeting rooms upstairs. I love the feeling, I love the location. We're 2 minutes from St Pancras, which is just down the road. We've got the other underground station across the road from us here, so location, you can't beat it. We're just downstairs of the coffee shop, and yeah, we love it.
Let's kind of go into the story a little bit, because I'm sure you guys can see, maybe you can't see, but I'm sure you're familiar with Sam anyway. But Sam, why don't you go into a bit more about exactly what you do, including Menspire, everything that's going on right now. What is Sam all about?
Cool, what I'm about. So I'm a hairdresser, barber by trade. I started working when I was 15 years old. I left school early and started working full-time in a hairdressing salon. At the time, I knew that school and all that kind of, and university, college wasn't really for me. I knew I had to be hands-on. I had a real massive passion for hair, and cutting my own hair, cutting friends' hair, even really, really young.
That's why you're always so fresh, yeah?
Yeah, I had a thing for it. Even myself and Josh, who's my business partner, we own Menspire together. We both used to be in English together. We both always used to cut our own hair and maybe colour our own hair. So we had like a little streak of blonde, a little bit of a mullet. This was sort of 15 years back. But yeah, I always used to do my own hair, do friends' hair and stuff. So started working in a hair salon. And thank God, really, I had a passion for it, and I really enjoyed it, and basically started working as a hairdresser. Worked in various different salons until I realised. I worked in some really good salons. I worked in one particular salon that had an academy up in Knightsbridge in London, so I did a scholarship there.
How old were you at that time?
I must have been 17.
Okay.
Did a scholarship. 17, 18, did a scholarship, came out and then started working back in the salon in St Albans, where I'm from, and did about 5 years there.
So you skipped the normal route, like college,
totally. So
uni.
yeah, skipped it all. Like I said, I got politely asked to leave school based on just not being present in any classrooms, and actually being, actually a little bit disturbing. Just been a bit, to be honest, to being a bit of a class clown, and not really being able to kind of just to connect to that environment. It
Follow the norms.
Yeah, it just wasn't for me. And it wasn't a concern for me at the time, because I was just sort of quite ignorantly just living. But I think my mum and dad were quite concerned. We've come from a background. My brother and sister both did university and that kind of more academic background. And there was me, who wasn't due any GCSEs and was a bit rebellious and whatever. But yeah, I'm really just grateful that I found the thing that I loved, and just wasn't thinking about money at all. Just literally just following like my passion. And it was that same feeling that just kind of got me through to working in these different places, not really earning a lot, but getting some incredible experience with some real great professional people, like working in Knightsbridge, and that kind of level of service that you pick up from dealing with very, very wealthy. You've got footballers in there, you've got wealthy Arab women in there who are shopping in Knightsbridge. It's very, very luxury clientele. So the effect that had on me of being a professional and understanding how to conduct myself in that kind of environment was greatly beneficial for them being able to kind of knowing the whole time I wanted to do my own thing anyway. I kind of put myself in these environments with very, very high level. Also the salon in Mayfair, the Grosvenor House, kind of really, really up there. Not that I ever wanted to be like open a shop or anything in that kind of level necessarily, because it was really, really high.
Early days,
but
yeah.
I knew that it was only having positive effects on, positive effects. So then fast forward, realised that I wanted to do my own thing. Realised that the place I wasn't really working for me. So I decided to leave, and that day was the best thing I ever did. I started working for myself. So I worked for myself for 2 years at my parents' house. I kind of converted the front sitting room into a salon.
Wow.
At these same times, my partner Josh was doing the very same thing. He was working for a large hair company, but then kind of left it, and then he was focusing on his thing. So we then came together and started working together. So we both pretty much cut all the young guys in St Albans and the surrounding areas between us. We'd often like sort of share clients and kind of work together. Although we were technically competition, it wasn't a competition. It was cohesion from very early. And then we started planning and talking about doing something. I mean, we spoke about this for many, many years. We then in 2012 created Menspire officially, and we did our own product brand together. So we were both working from home. He was working from his grandma's house. I was working from my mum and dad's house. We put some money in together and released some products. So we sold them both, and we had an Instagram page. We launched the page. So before we know it, there's a brand growing with no salon, just two guys creating this brand, uploading Twitter, Instagram. We had a particular way of we both cut hair in a very similar way. And before we know it, this brand was growing, and we were trying to get ourselves a shop. First shop we tried to get a little bit out of our budget. For me, I was very uncomfortable with the numbers. Looking back, it was about £30,000 to rent it, and then £8,000 rates. So for me, like £40,000 a year, it was very early. It was like, nah, this is too much. Went with it, but fortunately it didn't actually work out. And to be honest, we were planning to do something massive. There was going to be treatment rooms, there was going to be massage, there was going to be all kind of stuff that we didn't even really know about. We just knew that we wanted to do something big. Fortunately, it didn't work out, because I don't think we were quite ready for it at the time. Fortunately, the big one didn't work out because it was too big. It was like the rent rates could have been manageable, but it was two people starting a business. For me, like, it didn't feel quite right, and I was quite grateful the landlord didn't actually have faith in us and actually decided not to give it to us. So I would say fortunately, because
so you think it's a part of the
process?
Wasn't,
yeah, 100%. It wasn't right, because then what we did, we made a decision. I was having breakfast just around the corner from where we are now. I looked across the road. There'd been a tiny little unit, had been there for a long time. It used to be a tattoo shop. It used to be weird, little tiny little shop, and had a number of the landlord, and it had the details. Called it and said, Josh, it's a small shop. It might not be the best in St Albans, but let's just get this thing going. Let's work together, even if it's just you and I for the first year. Let's get this thing moving. Persuaded him that it was a good idea, and we went for it. And we it's a tiny little shop, but it was our first little shop.
What year was that?
This was, so we were planning it all 2013. Very, very beginning of 2014 we opened. Amazing shop. We had a team of 5 people cutting hair in there. It was tiny though, so we knew it was too small. And probably 6 months into it, we realised it was too small, and what we wanted to do just didn't really fit it. So we found this shop, which was literally around the corner, and it was upstairs and downstairs. We're obviously downstairs now, and we realised, what we wanted was something more to this scale. Still a very humble start. It's a humble area. It's not, we're not in the high street. It's still, but it was a jump for us, and so we took the risk and got this shop, redid the whole thing, spent a lot of money on it, made it exactly how we wanted it, and this was about 5 years ago now. We made that transition of a small little barber shop, massive brand, small business, into a massive brand, slightly bigger business, which was this. And this really, I look at this business and this shop as the launch pad. Everything we have now has been launched from this, for the various people that we've had work here, who we've mentored, who now have their own shops, whether it's in Dublin or whether it's down the road. It's really where we built everything. So it's very important. So this was the first major shop we had 5 years ago now, and fast forward, we now have many more. But that was the kind of very, very start of. basically.
So let's talk about Menspire a little bit in terms of people that don't know what it is or what makes it different. What is Menspire and why is it? Obviously, we'll go into the story of the fact that you've grown so quickly and massively.
Yeah.
But what would you say Menspire is?
Long story short, we're a brand that is crossover of barbering and hairdressing, and we try and meet in the middle of an average nice men's barbershop with that kind of feeling, but in like a more of a salon environment where we're serving teas and coffees and washing hair. So the concept was, myself and Josh, we both worked in hair salons at the time, but we had a massive passion for cutting men's hair, and we didn't really see that many men coming through the salon, and if they did, they weren't particularly having overly creative haircuts. It was all kind of, generally back in the day, people wanted like a skin fade and a nice cut on top. You have to go to almost like a Afro-Caribbean barbers to get the skin fade, then into a Tony and Guy perhaps to get the top cut. That was the norm like 10 years ago. It really, really was. And we just saw a massive like gap in the market where there isn't that in between, where you don't want to go to that, you know, although barbershops are great and they serve a fantastic purpose, but the man that might want a little bit more of service, a bit more for his money, might want a hair wash, might want a nice coffee, might want a haircut that, you know, is going to last them for a long time, done by someone who's got great expertise, who's been trained properly, etc. So that's in a nutshell what it was, and it's a norm now that there is that sort of crossover where you get lots of nice barbershops now, almost like a salon feeling where there's a receptionist or whatever, like what we've got. It's a norm now, but it didn't used to exist, and we saw that gap and we knew we had to fill it. And I kind of feel like we were one of the first brands, if not the first brand, to kind of really make any kind of mark on the industry by doing it, and it kind of worked. And I think it was very obvious, but it just wasn't ever kind of executed correctly where there was that kind of transition, because it might seem very obvious now, but it just didn't used to exist. Alongside that, we obviously had our products from early, and also education as well, which is a massive part of our brand, where it's more of Josh's focus, where we have an academy up in town, and we have we've got the salons and we've got the education. They're both equally as important as each other. And we've also, you know, been really well known via all our international work that we've been doing over the last sort of 6 years. Josh has been literally spent his last 6 years on the road traveling, spreading the brand, whether it's Russia or Poland or America or Australia. That, you know, Josh alongside the other educators have been, so we've been growing as salons, we've been growing as a brand like internationally and UK as well. And that's generally kind of what Menspire is. And that's the kind of the oranges.
Obviously, I want people to know the scale that Menspire is on now in terms of the fact that you've gone from starting from a small shop in St. Albans to now having multiple locations, also kind of building a life for yourself outside of actually having to cut hair yourself. So talk on that a little bit if you can.
So we're just about to do our deal today on our 18th salon.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. And I say 18, it's a large number, and I'm extremely grateful for that 18, but I have to say at the same time, as we've been scaling and growing, there has been so many rejections and so many opportunities that have come forward that we've said no to. So it's definitely not like we're just trying to rapidly scale it and get as many shops as possible, because some people might think, wow, that's a lot of people. That is a lot, which is a lot. But that's 18, like, our salons that have been handpicked by us. The people in there are Menspire. Everything is Menspire through us, rather than someone's not just kind of brought a franchise and taken the name and done one. That's organic growth. It's slow growth. Although it's been quick, it's been slow, and it's taken us a while to do it. But we're sitting on 18 now. Very, very grateful, with the plan of finishing the year with many more. And yeah, they're international now. We've got USA, which we're in Portland, which we're very grateful for. We've got a salon in the Four Seasons Hotel in Amman, Jordan, in the Middle East, which we're extremely grateful for. We're about to open Amsterdam next month. We've got about 5 or 6 new ones opening next month. We've now got 4 in Dublin. Dublin's very important to us. It was actually the second location we had was Dublin, and that was from a man called Glenn McGoldrick, who basically came and worked for us in this shop for about 1.5 years. And then he in his interview told me that he wanted to take this brand back to his hometown of Dublin. I thought, cool. I actually believed him, and he did it. And he now has 4 salons under his belt and an academy over there. So incredible. So really, really pure Menspire. It's not someone who's just kind of seen an opportunity and taken it. It's people who've worked with us closely, been mentored by us, and the results are now paying off, because not only was it amazing that Glenn took one to Dublin, but now he's got people in his team who have now taken Menspires as well. So we've got Craig Murtagh, who's been worked for us from day one, and now he's taken a Menspire Dublin back to his hometown of Crumlin. So this is how we're growing. We're doing it organically, but there's a process behind it, and that's really how I spend my life now. Like I said, I came into this thing as a barber and a hairdresser, and I humbly say I'm not actually a barber or hairdresser now, because I don't cut that much hair now. I kind of have like naturally grown into being a businessman, which I suppose wasn't intention. It was my intention at the beginning, but I definitely have never claimed to be a businessman or entrepreneur early on, because I think that's a very, very loose term that gets thrown around. Now I would say I don't really cut hair, and if someone asked me what I do, I would have to say more of a director, because I spend my life recruiting people, interviewing people, doing deals, new locations, meeting builders. My life is extremely busy, but not cutting hair now, and that was also a massive intention that myself and Josh made at the very, very beginning, that we weren't about to create ourselves a job, we were about to create ourselves a business. So after the first 3 months, we went away on holiday together and left the shop with the capable hands of who we had. Almost reckless, but it was to prove a point that actually, do you know what, we don't need to be tied into this business to make sure that we're earning money. So we went and did Umrah together, we went on to Turkey, we did loads of various things, and the point of it being was, it was not that kind of being reckless. It was like, look, let's ensure that we can build this with structure, with systems, that we don't have to be there, and things are running exactly how we want. And we went to India, and we went and did some charity work in India, and spent 2 weeks over there, which was incredible. But we read the book, and that book really impacted us. And it's basically showing us the basics of how a business should work. Which is having sort of technicians, so people who do the work, having managers, people who manage the technicians, and having an entrepreneur, someone who can build on the business. And it's maybe seemed quite obvious to many people, but not for everyone. And when you really focus on that and actually trying to separate those 3 roles, you are going to sort of see some growth. Because if you, like I said, if you open a shop and you'll just have that technician, that you can do well from that, of course. But it's so limiting. You need to, for us, it was always about growing. It was always about expanding. It was always about finding partners. So in the first 6 months of the first shop, tiny little shop, we were on the phone to someone who wanted to open in Dubai. This was the first 6 months in, and we were hungry. We were having various meetings with this guy, everything over Skype. It didn't work out, but the point was that was 6 months into that tiny little shop, and that's what we were working on. We're working on sort of expanding, finding the right people, right locations, and not being tied into our shop, basically.
So let's go back a little bit, because you mentioned that obviously you and Josh, you always, shout out to Josh, by the way, he's his partner, if you guys don't
Josh
know.
Monica.
But you kind of said that, at the start, you and Josh didn't want to create a job for yourself, and you knew that you wanted to be business operators. You didn't want to be tied down, which, to be honest, even now, I think a lot of entrepreneurs, they are in that position where, unfortunately, they've built an amazing business for themselves, yet they can't remove themselves from the picture without the business falling, right? Yeah. But I want to go back to kind of, you're a young guy, you've been kind of asked to leave education, right? Yeah. And you haven't really been taught business or entrepreneurship or how to create a brand or how to franchise or any of these things. So are you saying that from the moment that you and Josh started, you knew that you were going to take it to this scale, or did that just happen over time?
We knew, I humbly say it, we knew we were going to grow it big. I didn't think it would be, it still doesn't really sink in what's going on, because it is quite a lot. And only yesterday I was in Watford. We're opening a new shop in Watford, which is down the road. And I was there with the builders, and then I was walking through the thing. It did dawn on me, the number, and it is a large number, but I'm trying not to think about it too much. I'm just focusing on growing it, and then I'll look back in maybe 10 years and say, wow, that is a big number, 230 or whatever it is. But yeah, it was always the point of growth. We always wanted to grow it. I had a lot of faith in Josh. Josh had a lot of faith in me. We come from good backgrounds in the sense of our hair, where we learn our cutting hair, and who we've trained with. So the likes of Hob, which is a massive hair brand, and the likes of Sanriz, which is also a massive hair brand, who, you know, gave us a lot of foundation, like I was saying earlier, about service and understanding and stuff. So we knew together it wasn't going to be a small operation. We weren't going to sit and do something small. He had dreams of traveling the world, teaching Menspire. I had dreams of having multiple salons. I have to say, maybe it was more like 5 or 6 in my head. But then I realised when I got to 5 or 6, I thought, this hasn't even touched where I want to go with this now. And it wasn't like I'm just going to get as many salons as possible. Everything has to be organic. We've said no to some really incredible locations with some people who are really incredible people, but I just didn't think it sat right with me, you know, long term doing business with certain people. So someone asked me yesterday, have you ever turned down an opportunity? We turned down New York, St. Petersburg, and Moscow in one deal. Amazing people, amazing idea, amazing concept, but just something didn't sit right. Something didn't sit right for either of us. It was just like, our brand is ours, and we need to ensure it's ours. And there's growth, and there's growth with someone can almost like go and do their own thing with it. And I think you have to just trust your gut so much and your feeling and the energy that it brings. So we're about to sign for the 18th. If I'd said yes to all of them, we would have a lot more. But I imagine it wouldn't be as clean as it is now, because it is really truly Menspire. You'd come in here, you'd go to America, and you'd have the same experience. You'd smell that same smell that you could smell right now that's burning. That incense stick is getting burnt in Portland as well. Like these things, it's all in the book. This is what you have to have, and to ensure it stays that way, you have that same feeling, that the same kind of things on the playing on the TV, same person's having the same kind of conversation, that same feeling, that smell has to remain.
Is that the McDonald's vibe?
Yeah, exactly. That's basic franchising. I'm not saying this is necessarily a franchise, but it's basic. Like, if something works and you want to replicate it, keep it the same. We don't have music on in our shops. We've got so many other partners who've suggested, can I have this? Can we do this? Even if it's jazz, even if it's minimal house. I said, nah.
Has to stay the same.
If we go down that road, I'm not saying it's not going to work necessarily, but it's just not going to be Menspire. And if we're moving away from Menspire, why do you even want to call it Menspire? Call it another name, because it has to be everything from what we did day one. Mm-hmm. Because why would we change it? Even people. I'm also very, very happy to be coached, and people who know more than me, I'm happy to adapt and move it forward. But our core foundation of the things that we do, we're trying to keep that the same, because I think that is the recipe of success.
Okay, so you had Josh by your side throughout the process, and
yes, yeah.
You were friends as well.
Yeah.
What are because obviously it's worked for you, what are your thoughts on being in a partnership? Because me personally, I have done business by myself, and I've done it with other people as well. And I think there's good and bad on both sides.
Certainly.
But for me, I definitely prefer having a partner that has different skills to me, because as an entrepreneur, I think people think that you have to be good at everything, but you don't need to, and you shouldn't actually, because if you're doing everything, then realistically, I don't know, I just think you're going to get burnt out.
Yeah.
So what's your thoughts?
Well, if we look at someone like Richard Branson, who's dyslexic and who's got nothing from school, and to be honest, like if you look at him on paper back in the day, maybe he was going to amount to nothing. But let's look at Richard Branson now. He's dyslexic, and he's so happy to admit that where his weaknesses are, and ultimately you need to just fill those weaknesses with people who are better at you than that. And that's been my process, bro, because I failed at school, big time, and I'm very weak in many areas, but I don't let it get in the way. I just realised that actually, do you know what? There's so many people around me that I know I can utilise, and if I'm a bit weak with that, I'll get that guy to do that. If I'm a bit weak with that, I'll get someone to do that. And that's what it's all about. So for me, partnership is everything. And I've got Josh as my original business partner, but from that, I've got now many business partners. and there's so much strength in that. So for me personally, if it's the right person, and there's only one way of really finding out is doing business. But again, what I'm saying about that feeling, like for me, I can feel who's right and who's not, and you can easily pick up. You can have a conversation with someone, like a natural conversation, kind of pick up on key things about them, like where their mind is at, what they actually want, what's their dreams, their desires, what they're into. So for me, partnership is everything, and I think there's so much strength with 2 people coming together, 3 people coming together. So that's how we're building is through partnership. So for me, it's worked beautifully. I also know people who've had partners and it's gone very, very bad and ugly. So I'm not going to say to everyone that you should go and find a partner, because if you can do it by yourself, I know people who've done great things,
100%.
all completely off their own back, nothing, no help, and I've seen that. But again, like for me, it's not a weakness to admit your weakness. I've got so much weakness, bro. Like I struggle a lot with basic stuff, but I'm not going to let it get in the way ever. And when you look at someone like Richard Branson and what he's achieved, that's insane. And the guy's dyslexic and has basic learning difficulties, but he didn't let it get in the way. So when you see examples like that, I don't know, there's no excuses, is there? I want shops all around the world, but I'm not going to be able to run them because I'm not going to be able to I'm not going to be able to get to all these different places. I don't necessarily want to own it and hire a manager, because a manager is only someone who's doing a job still. But if you can find a partner and it can be theirs as much as it is yours, and you both have that passion and that love for it, that is far more powerful than anything. So that for me is where I like the strength in partnership, because you equally love it the same, and the power behind that only pushes it further and further. But it is down to finding the right people, and it's not about rushing it. It's not about thinking, I can only do it if I find a partner. Just see what happens. You go out on it. If someone you meet is shares the same dreams as you, like use that, like massively use that. So for me, yeah, it's been nothing but good having like-minded people to join the vision and grow it. And it's theirs equally. Like how some of my guys who've got salons, like it is their salon. Mm-hmm. They opened it. They put the money into it. It's theirs. It's theirs as much as it is mine. So that power means they're going to be, if there's a problem, they'll be there at 6 a.m, or they'll be there anytime. They'll do anything they need to because it's theirs, and they share it as much, have that emotional attachment to it as much as me, and that's where a lot of power comes from. Mm-hmm. So it's all about sharing the pie as well. I mean, you can be successful, but if you're doing it all alone, I think the victory of a team is just incredible, and you can't really beat that. Getting a team right and really executing something is something indescribable, to be honest.
Hey guys, and welcome to my interview. So, how did Menspire begin? One of the most recognizable brands in the world of barbering. So let me tell you, I started cutting hair when I was 15 years old, and I was extremely inspired by football players that had really cool hairstyles. And this led to an obsession with hair, and then also led to a frustration about not being able to get my hair cut the way I wanted to by barbers. And I couldn't figure it out. Going to the barber shop and getting a haircut, but it wasn't what I wanted, it used to really, really annoy me. So I started looking into hairstyles, I started looking at cutting the hair itself, and eventually I started cutting my own hair. And my friends noticed how I was growing my hairstyle into a particular shape, and my friends asked me, where did you get your hair cut? And I would lie to them and I would say that actually I'd done it myself. So I started cutting my friend's hair, and I really found a kind of natural flair for cutting hair. And this was the start of my journey about when I started cutting hair. Now, as I became older, I had no interest in opening a salon. I was very, very happy sort of just working on my skill, working in the barbershop, and trying to do competitions. And eventually I come to the idea that I was doing a lot of hair now, doing 60, 70, 80 haircuts a week. And it got to a point where I started to think, if I somehow get injured, I'm not going to be able to work. Now, my thought process was, well, if I can build a team that have the same type of vision, have the same type of beliefs, and are under the same culture, then I can potentially pass my clients on, but still earn a living being able to do what I love. Now, that was the first instance where I thought, actually, I'm going to need a salon one time. And eventually I got back in touch with my business partner, who was my friend at school, or we was, at the same school. And eventually we decided that, one day we're gonna open up a salon, and it's gonna have a high-end feeling, a 5-star feeling, and something niche and brand new to the market. Because 7 years ago, there wasn't such thing as a barbershop with appointments and refreshments and high fashion haircuts. It was just more short back and sides, cheap haircuts, in and out. So what we wanted to do is we wanted to change the paradigm for men to feel comfortable stepping into an environment where they could be treated and pampered in a way that makes them feel and look fantastic. So eventually in 2014, we opened up our very first salon in St. Albans in our hometown. It was a small shop, it wasn't very big, and there was just 3 of us or 4 of us at the time when we started. Now, within 18 months, we grew tremendously. Our social media started to reflect what we were doing with our haircuts. Consumers and barbers were starting to pay attention to us. Now, with so many clients within 18 months, we had to make a decision because we wanted to grow our team, but we couldn't stay in the same position because it was just too small. So eventually we decided to move out and move on, and we moved on to a place that was twice the size and built the team double the size. And that was our first stage of, taking a risk and being uncomfortable that allowed us growth. Because we had a small rent, and then we had triple the rent. So we were really risking, our financial stability in order to grow as a company and as a brand. So eventually after that, we had our very, very first member to take our brand across seas to Ireland, Dublin, and his name was Glenn McGoldrick. Now, he was working with us for 2 years in St. Albans, came over to England from Ireland, and wanted to learn our system, our method, our way of business, and actually take it back to Dublin. So from there, Glenn started working on the Menspire in Ireland, which was our second salon in partnership. And from there to 2021, we now have 19 salons and 3 academies. So that's just a very short journey, but the moral and the message of this journey is that if you believe in something, then you can achieve it. And the way to do that is by surrounding yourself with people that are aligned in the same system of beliefs that want to progress. Okay, what gives Josh LaMonica the energy to act, and what drives him? Great question, and it's a question that I get asked all the time when I go around the world. And there's 2 primary things that really give me the energy to act and that drive me. And the first one is passion. Now, it doesn't matter how tired you get, we all get tired, it's part of human nature. But when you're passionate about something, it really fuels you with motivation, and it almost becomes like therapy. You could be in certain situations, but when you're passionate about something, it gives you a sense of wholeness and fulfillment. And what drives me is the ability to pass that passion on, because for me the whole meaning of passion means pass it on. And if you can pass it on, and it means that you'll help other people become inspired, and if they become inspired like you do, then they also get the fulfillment that you do. And you know, we live and work in a society that is built on such a fast-paced, day in, day out routine, that ultimately when you're passionate about something, it replaces that routine because you're just enjoying it. And you know, ultimately that drives me on a day-to-day basis to be able to, you know, think and pass that on to people. You know, ultimately all of this knowledge is not mine. It's not what I've attained, and everything that I release is, you know, almost like a word of God and God's message. And I sincerely believe that, you know, everyone has their own purpose in this world, and you know, my purpose for me is to spread that message that we have been gifted, we have been blessed, and we have been favored and chosen to be able to, you know, work with something that really defaults our benevolence to God himself, and to pass that on through our hands from our heart. So that's what drives me every day. So the development of our academy over the next 5 years, where do I see it? Well, let's have a look at the past 5 years, let's have a look at now, and let's also look into the next 5 years. So over the last 5 years, we have been running an academy, and we've seen, you know, a tremendous growth. So if we take it back 5 years ago, we had no academy, and we were simply traveling up and down the country in the UK. Eventually we decided to open up a space in the UK where people could come to us. Now eventually, this was 2016, by 2018 we kind of realized that we kind of needed to do something bigger and better to kind of credit ourselves for the fact that people were coming from all over the world to visit us to endure our education. So eventually we moved over to a big premises with a studio, an amazing floor space, and this was in 2019. Now we have the complete prototype for what we want to do around the world. We're going to continue to, you know, start spreading our message and our love and our philosophy into new countries. Now we have since opened up in Dublin, Ireland with our an academy, and just this year, 2021, we're also opening up an academy in the USA. So over the next 5 years, you can expect us to start to explore the world and expand ourselves and really start to hone in on the message that we want to portray in the men's hairdressing industry. So we hope to see you guys in Poland soon. How has the virus affected our work? Well, I think it's affected just about anything and everyone in many ways. Of course, there are pros and cons with, you know, what's happened. We have been shut down and we have been prevented from doing what we love. However, it doesn't stop there. When you are stopped from doing what you love, you find a way, you become resilient, and you move towards that. And that's exactly what we've done working with online education. It was always a dream of ours to work with online education. However, this pandemic has really forced us to channel in on the online education. And it's great for us because, you know, we are so used to traveling the world. It's enabled us to actually have a rest from doing all the traveling, you know, and actually it's enabled us to hit the masses and hit a larger group and society of the world, because there are many people that still, even if we come to their country, they still can't see us, and we can't see them, you know. However, if they're sitting behind their screen at home, it's very easy for them to actually lock into us because we're accessible to the whole world. So in this scenario, we're very grateful for what's happened, and we take the positives with it. What are the four most important things in Josh's life? And it's quite an easy one. Number one is God, first and foremost. Second, of course, your family. Number three, food and exercise. Number four, then hair, in that order. my biggest dream? Ooh, I need some more time to think on this one. I would say that I've certainly hit many of my dreams, based upon being a younger guy, looking in on the hair industry at, you know, my ambition, my dream, my goal. And I can certainly say that, you know, traveling the world, being on stages, teaching people, I've certainly accomplished those dreams. The biggest dream for me in entirety, of course, no doubt, just like anyone else, is going to be happiness. And how we attain that is you know, it's not just through hair, you know, from life in general, and having a steady balance, which is again something that I strive to yearn for. Which country did I work best in? I know you travel a lot. Okay. So I've traveled around the world in many places. I've got favorite things for different countries. I had, you know, one of the most incredible experiences in Brazil, as I stood in the largest audience. In fact, that's not true. I went to South Korea. That was the largest audience of around 3,000 people. But certainly when I went to Brazil, it was about 1,800 people, and that was the most phenomenal experience that I've ever had working on stage, just because of the sheer noise, the volume, the passion, the energy that I had experienced during that time was certainly incredible. What else can I say? I've been to so many countries that have beautiful, just beautiful cities and beautiful people. But if we're talking about experiences, I would say Brazil has been a phenomenal one. What 3 things would I take home from Poland? I'm not sure if I should answer that. Let me think. It depends. Like, whenever I've been to Poland, I've had great energy, and you know, I don't know if that's something that you can physically take back, but memories, you know, memories would be the main thing that I would bring back. Some very positive memories. That's a tough one, you know. That's a tough one. I'll have to come back to think about it, see what I can bring back. We'll come back to that. I'll see you soon. Hope you've enjoyed my interview, and you know, Poland, I'm going to see you soon.